and we actually, what's important, and this is actually more important to tell to young people, that even during those times when we were in the ghetto, those 5,000 Jews that were left there, we continued during this whole time when we didn't know what the next day would bring. We still studied. We all said the parents felt that if we survived, we need the education, otherwise we will have lost all that time. So we were studying math and history and geography, and we were studying Hebrew, and we were studying everything. We were going clandestinely. We were going over roofs, but through the back alleys and whatever. And I tried to really tell the kids that Jews second to survival is education, because for 2,000 years they were from one country to the other, and the only thing that you really own in this world is what you have in your head. Anything else is really, you can have it today. And I give him an example what happened to the people in New Orleans, that one day they had everything, and the next day they were gone, and they were taken to live in Phoenix or whatever because they lost their house and everything else. Those that had an education found a job a lot easier than those that didn't. So education is the more what you own in your head is the only thing you truly own. Anything else is transitory.
So teachers were available to help you with this?
Oh yeah, there were some people that could teach whatever their function was.
Yeah.
There were engineers working in factory at night were teaching math. I mean, it's just a matter. I remember I used to go and I used to study Hebrew, and I used to we studied trigonometry, we studied everything as we almost had schooling. And I remember this Hebrew teacher was pretty tough. You had to study the prayers, and I know today the prayers almost by heart, because you sort of remember what you from your youth more than what you remember from today. So we studied, and in a minute become how important that was. And so time went by like that. My father was working. Thank God nobody got really very sick during that time, because that would have been the end of it. Yeah. But we survived that time. And then in 1944, the Germans retreated. The Russians came back. And just as fast as it changed over from Russians to the Germans, it turned over just as fast from the Germans to the Russians. And there was really no fighting in this town at all. It wasn't destroyed by anything. When the Russians came back, we went back to our apartment, to that corner apartment where we stayed before. Because at this point we weren't afraid of the Ukrainians or whatever, or whoever it was there. So anyway, we got back our apartment. Whoever lived there was gone. Maybe it was Romanians or whatever. So anyway, we went back to that apartment, and we stayed there. And about a week or two.
That was your apartment from the very beginning, where you were brought up, right?
Right. Yeah. To that corner house apartment. Yeah. And about a week or two later, again, after the Russians came in, Stalin believed that anybody who survived the Germans had to be a collaborator. So what he did, he gave an order that all the people between the ages of 17 or 16, I don't remember exactly what the date was, but those born 1928 and older, that up to the age of 50, whatever, they were not, this wasn't anymore that they knew where they were going. They were closing up streets. I mean, out of the blue, they suddenly trucks showed up, secret police, the NKVD, the military. They locked up a street, and if you were on the street, they grabbed you. They looked at you. You were in that age group. They put you on the truck, and you were gone, and nobody came back. Actually, a cousin of mine, a young man who survived the labor camp in Transnistria, that came back from the labor camp and survived, was grabbed on the street and never seen again. They basically send him as cannon fodder in front of the troops to clean up the minefields or whatever. But from those people that they grabbed, almost nobody that we know that came back. So what happened is, one day I was somewhere on the, and I came home, and the entrance to that corner house was on one street. That street was not, but the other street, where the other side was blocked off, and they grabbed everybody on that street. And for some reason, I thought I was wearing shorts and looked like I'm very young, whatever, but I thought I can sneak in because I didn't want to be, because I didn't know if they'll close up that street next. I didn't want to be left on the street, so I tried to sneak into the door of the house, the entrance to the house. And just as I was going to walk in, the sort of the next miracle happened. Just as I walked in, the Russian soldier at the corner, or policeman, whatever, motioned to me, come over. And I had no choice. I had to come over. He looked at me, and he called over the lieutenant or whatever, the officer, and he looked at me and he said, yeah, he looks of the right age. And they started to drag me towards the truck, to put me on the truck, and that would have been the end of it. And just as they were dragging me towards the truck, I kept yelling, "Mother, mother, mother." And a neighbor heard me scream, and my mother's balcony, our balcony was right over the truck, was on the other side of the street. And just as they were, my mother came out, I said, "Bring down the passport." Now here is the miracle.
And you said, bring down what?
The passport.
Oh, okay.
Now, the one thing in a dictatorship, no matter who you are, if you are the secret police or you are the SS under the Hitler, you obey the rules to the letter. Because if you don't obey the rules in a dictatorship, you're going to be next. And they know that. So when I told my mother, bring down the passport, and what happened? That Russian passport that I got, that colonel gave us 5 years earlier, when in 1939, they made a mistake on my passport. Instead of saying I was born in 1928, they put 1929. And my mother brought down the passport, showed it to the lieutenant. They took me out of the truck.
Wow.
If that mistake didn't take place 5 years earlier, that it was 1929, instead they made me a year younger.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be standing here, or whatever.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here. So basically, this is, and then we really wanted to get out of this, because you get saved once, you don't know what happens next. So we got false paper as Polish citizens. So we went to the train station, we went on trains, we went to Poland, and we stayed in Poland in a burned out building there, with no water, no heat, no nothing. The only people that survived was the immediate family. That means my immediate family and my uncle that lived with us.
And your brother.
And my brother, I'm talking the immediate
immediate
family, survived. And we went to Poland and then through Czechoslovakia and Hungary. We went back. Instead of going west, we made the mistake. The king was still in Romania, so we thought we'll go back to Bucharest. So we went back to Bucharest, but unfortunately, very short time later, the communists took over Romania, kicked out the king at that time, and the communists took over the. So at that point, I got while I was in Romania, while we went back to Bucharest, having had all that education in the ghetto, I was able to go for 6 months to a school, and I got my high school diploma.
Wow.
So, and right after that, when the communists took over Romania again, we obviously didn't want to be under the communists again, so we applied for a visa to go. At that time, you applied for visas to go to South America. Somebody sent you, and again, that happened to a lot of people. That's why you have a lot of Jews in South America. So my parents got a visa to leave. I didn't, because I was of army age. So they left for Paris, and they were waiting for me, and they gave the guy that was giving out visas. They told him if he's going to give me a visa, he's going to get some diamond earrings that for my mother, whatever they left me. And 6 months later, I was alone for about 6 months, and then I was able to join my parents in France and Paris, and I was able to go to engineering school in Paris because I had my high school diploma. So really,
wow.
the rest is history.
Let's take a little break. I want to change this. Okay, continue.
Okay, you know, and so we stayed in Paris. We never continued to South America. My father opened up another glass factory, actually, in Paris, and a wholesale store, whatever he was doing.
Did you work in the glass factory with
No,
him?
no. I went to school. I went to engineering school in Paris, and after that, after I finished engineering school in Paris, I wanted to get another degree, and we got in touch. Somehow my mother got in touch with cousins that we had here in New York.
This would have been what year?
That would have been in 1947.
47.
Oh no. I arrived in Paris. I arrived in Paris in 47, because from 45 we were in Bucharest, and then we went in from Poland, and then all around, and in Bucharest we were for a year, and then when the communists took over, that's when I went to. That's when my parents left for. That was already. I got to. They left in 46 probably, and I got to Paris in 47, and I went to school in Paris till 51 for 4 years, and after that I wanted to get another degree, so in engineering. So
what type of engineering was that?
The electrical engineering.
Okay.
And they at that point we found out about these cousins in New York, and one of the brothers, there were 5 brothers and a sister or whatever, and we were in touch with them, and one of them was a professor someplace, and he suggests I should fill out, he sent me the papers to go to apply on a student visa to go to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute here in Troy, New York.
Yeah.
And I came here, I studied for a year, got a degree, and after that,
and your parents were in Paris.
They stayed in Paris. My whole family stayed in
brother?
Paris. Stayed in Paris. Everybody stayed in Paris.
What did your
My brother lives now in Paris.
Oh.
He lives in Paris. So.
What does he do? Does he have profession?
Well, he's an engineer too. He went to the same engineering school. He opened a company, and he retired just a short while ago.
Oh, good.
So he lives in Paris. My father and my mother deceased. And one thing that's worth mentioning that as I mentioned at the beginning, my father lost his whole family in the war. We never were able to find any of his sisters or nieces, nephews of mine, anybody. They all perished in the death camp someplace. And the only one we knew when they were deported is those from Vienna, because they are documents. So we knew that they were deported in '42 to Auschwitz or someplace. And nobody returned, except for one daughter. We found out that one daughter of their daughter was sent to England with the Kindertransport. You must have heard about the Kindertransport.
Oh, yeah.
And she was about 17 years old. Now they're telling me here that that's unusual, that usually it's younger children, but obviously she was 17 years old. She was sent to London, to England, and after I was in the 50s, in the 1954 or 55, I assumed that when she got to England, that being alone, maybe she got married soon afterwards. And I went to, it's a very well organized in London. Every marriage that took place in England is in a repository in London. And you can go and you look at the books, and I spent about 5 days in London. And on the 5th day, I found her name that she got married sometimes in 42 or 43, and she lived in Coventry. And I called up, and there were 4 people with that name, or 3 people in Coventry, and the second whatever, and I went and I found her, and she made the last years of my father very happy of his life.
Good.
So this is the only, she died since then. So that's the only person that we know on my father's side that survived. Except there were some distant aunts or uncles in Israel, but otherwise his immediate family, his sisters, 4 sisters and a brother, and their families have all perished. So that's, and then I came in the United States, I came to study, but in '59 I became I applied for citizenship. I became a citizen in 1959. I met my wife in 1963, and we got married, and I have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, and I have one son in Vegas who has 1 boy. I have 1 daughter here that has 2 girls. I have 1 daughter in San Diego that I just became a grandfather, and just 2 weeks ago, and she is in San Diego, and I have a son here in Phoenix who has 3 boys. Wow. So I have now 7 grandchildren.
That's wonderful.
And that's life, and the thing that if you have the time, what I try to convey to the young people, and that's the importance, the future of this country and so forth. What I try to convey to them is how I try to leave them with some thoughts. not just with horror and so forth, which I talked to them about the death camp and so forth, but besides my own story. But I basically tell them that what I would like to leave them with the thought that when they get up every morning, that they should thank God or whoever they believe in, because you got to be careful in today's schools. You can't just mention God alone. They should thank God that they woke up in these United States. It's the greatest country on earth, and they should understand that they should not listen to those people that denigrate this country. And they should really be happy that to understand the freedom they have. And then I try to explain to them, because again, whatever you talk to children, you have to put yourself in their frame of mind. And what I try to explain to them, I said, let me explain to you what freedom means, because you really were born into it, you live into it, you really don't know what it is, and you don't even appreciate it. So let me tell you what freedom is. I tell them, I said, I'm sure that among you, I'm talking usually to between 8th grade and 12th grade. And I said, you know, I'm sure that some of you have a girlfriend here or a boyfriend. And let's assume you make a date. Today is Tuesday when I'm speaking to you. You decide on Saturday you have a date, whatever a date means today, to go to the movies. Now, just think about it. There is nothing in the world that can stop you from going to the movies on Saturday. Only two things. Your parents won't let you go, or she doesn't love you on Saturday anymore. And that breaks them up, and, you know, it's sort of... And I said, so, while on the other hand, when I was your age, I couldn't make a decision that was valid more than 1 minute, because a minute later I could be dead, I could be in prison, I could be beaten up, I could be... anything could happen to me. I had no... In a dictatorship, you have no control over your own life. And then I tried to really tell them that they should... It is totally understandable that you can't like everybody. It's totally acceptable to dislike people, but there is a there is a tremendous step, and that should never be crossed from dislike to hate, because once you hate, then anything is possible. What happened today, even in today's world, and what happened in Rwanda, and what's happening in Darfur, and the world still doesn't care after what happened, the Holocaust. Really, the world still doesn't care. And then I tried to convey to them that all human beings, no matter what they are, whatever their race, religion, whatever it is, color, whatever it is, we all come from the same source. And when you dehumanize one human being, you dehumanize yourself, and you dehumanize the whole human race. And, you know, I try to leave them with some positive thoughts rather than just a matter of telling him about what happened during the Holocaust. And that's basically my story.
I think that is great. I remember off camera you were telling me about the example of the number of kids that are in the auditorium listening to you. Maybe you could run that kind of quickly.
Right. What I try to do to the children is, when I start off, I really start off telling them, as you know, I'm here to talk about the Holocaust. But let me tell you, when we talk about the Holocaust, we are basically talking about 6 million Jews that got killed. But in reality, that war, what Hitler started, killed probably 20, 30, 40 million people. But the reason we are basically saying the Holocaust has to do with Jews is because all the other people, although the Germans considered the Slavs as subhuman and so forth, they did not target them for extinction. The Jews were targeted for the first time in history for total extinction. It didn't matter. The Nuremberg law said that if one grandfather, and that's what the children understand very clearly, I tell them, if one of your grandparents, only one, was Jewish, you would be sent to a death camp and you would be killed. You would be considered a Jew. 1/16, if you had 1/16 of Jewish blood, you would be considered a Jew. The Jews were actually targeted for extinction versus the others that were targeted for slave labor, for whatever, but not for pure extinction. And this is the first time in history where it's different. For 2,000 years, Jews were persecuted, but all they had to do is go to another country or convert, and they will be safe. They didn't want to kill them, they just wanted to convert them, and they wanted to get rid of them when to some extent, to go somewhere else. But they did not. But this is the first time where they really targeted them for total extinction.
Right.
Oh, in talking about the right, going back to the thing, you're right. As I tried to tell them about the 6 million Jews, I tried to tell them that 1.5 million children were killed and 100,000 children survived. But I tell them, let me put it in a more clearer fashion for what, for instance, in this auditorium right now, we have, I think, about 160 people. Let's assume we have 160 people. And out of those 160 people, 150 would be killed at random, would be just simply because they were Jewish, or because for that simple reason, only 10 would survive. Now, do you understand that those 10 people that survived would always have that big question, why the 10 of us survived and those 150 got killed? And this is the trauma that every survivor of the Holocaust lives and carries with him, to explain why he survived.
Boy, that is so true. I think most of the ones that did survive, I think of all of the survivors that I met, are ones that they felt they survived mostly because they were just lucky.
Well, yeah, I said,
yeah.
The main reason is because you are, I always said that you survived because you were in the right place at the right time. But I believe there were certain miracles, and let me add one more thing, if that's still on, that everybody has a deep belief in something. Some people gave up their belief in God. Some people became more religious. I believe that the reason I survived and those miracles that I am talking to you about happened is because my grandmother, I was the apple of her eye. I was the most important thing in her life, and she was the greatest person to me, and I think she was a righteous human being. And when she got killed and she got up there, she told God, listen, you really screwed up. I don't belong here. I am a very righteous woman, and you really screwed up. But I tell you what, I'll forgive you, but you take good care of my grandson. And I really believe that she's watching over me. It is a funny thing. It is very, for an educated person to say that, but I do believe that she is watching over me. And I even tell my kids sometimes, don't worry about it, she's watching over you too. And that's what I believe in.
I believe it too. There is something to that.
To that, right.
I believe that. We got 1 minute left. You did great.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Okay. I think I'm going to stop it.
Yeah, you